a standard backstop similar to baseball. The bleachers, again, behind home plate, similar to how the existing layout is. Looking at batting cage, basically relocating the existing batting cage, actually a better location, because the existing location, of course, is in left field of the new orientation. With this layout, again, accessibility, we also looked at adding parking. We're showing 44 parking spaces, and then hard surface paving coming off up one to join with the running track, walkway, and then two going to the bleachers as well as both dugouts, again, to provide hard surface paving. Next slide, please. And that is similar to the baseball, but of course a little smaller due to the geometry of the softball. Masonry dugouts on both sides. Next slide, please. Again, just a picture of the backstop and the dugout. Again, the height of the softball dugout is 22 feet as well to the top of the backstop. And next slide, please. Again, similar type construction as baseball, so we're all in conformance. Municipal regulatory. Unfortunately, with improvements, we always have to deal with the local municipality as well as the county as far as requirements we need to fulfill to get permitting approval. From a municipal standpoint, we met the borough last week and very well received from the borough. We did talk to the county conservation district. We did not meet with them, and unfortunately they're going to make us join the NPDES permit that's currently underway for your high school. Whenever there's a land disturbance adjacent to an owner's property, they tie it together. So in doing so, we'll need to go through a major modification of the NPDES permit, which is typically a 8 to 10 month process. So that kind of leads us into the tentative schedule and where we would be at with, as far as going through those processes. And just to run through the tentative schedule, April, May looked at putting the documents together. As far as the permitting documents, look at the engineering for stormwater management as well as erosion and sedimentation control. Submitting those plans in June to get into that regulatory permitting process. And then looking at July through March of 26 for the permitting process. The borough, I believe, will be able to use a grading permit, stormwater management permit. Won't need to do full land development plans there. That has not been confirmed with the borough engineer. He's been a little hard to get a hold of. But I think the bigger job is the NPDES permitting, getting that approved. Typically, water quality requirements for the NPDES permit supersede the township. So we feel very comfortable that that is a reasonable approval process. Look at, if you wanted to move forward, we'd look at putting the construction documents together in January. Go out for public bidding in February. Next slide, please. And then in concert with the March municipal regulatory approvals, we would receive bids for your board review. If you get approval, if you want to move forward with the projects, in April we'd be looking at executing contracts, May initiation of construction after baseball, softball season, and I believe we could accomplish, project completion in August, potentially September, depending on, how Mother Nature treats us over the summer. That pretty much is a quick overview of where we're at with things. Happy to answer any questions or, continue discussions.
So you said you stuck everything in there, and then when we go to bid, we decide. And what was the reason for the parking lot over by the softball field?
Parking, I was asked to include that.
So question about the netting for the softball field. Like we're gonna do on Newark Street, the 60-foot high. Is there something to protect if there would be a parking lot put in there at the softball field? Would you, like down the third base line?
There's nothing on
first base.
Nothing on, there's no softball netting at softball, right? There's just
no, there was no ball control at softball.
Only baseball 40 feet high on North
Right.
Street.
But now,
What I'm
if
saying-
we choose the parking lot.
Yeah, if, now,
There's no parking in baseball, normal
no,
baseball.
no, no, I'm saying at softball.
Oh, okay,
If at softball,
all
the
right.
majority decides to add a parking lot, where will be netting added or not?
Could be, I mean, if that's a desire, absolutely, and again, that could be done as an alternate bid to see, you know, what the value of that is come bid day. Then you may get to make a choice.
Another question about the
Okay.
parking. Is there a way to put handicap parking along the curb? Because this parking lot looks so close to, the road right, as it is right now, I'm trying to think of the actual street, the parkway. I'm wondering if we can put, as a school, or if we can't, because it's Borough Road, we could put, like, make that handicap parking for some of the games.
Well, it would have to be some handicap parking there, because by law, you have to have X number of spots that are handicapped per parking spaces.
That would
Is
be,
that-
yeah, that would be a dictation by the borough. If you would put handicap parking on the street, that would be something the borough would need to be a party of, because it is a borough street.
Okay, I have another question, now it is not. Because I wasn't here for the beginning of the high school project with what's being built and done right now on the backside of the track. Is there still gonna be parking up there? So we would have parking there for softball?
Yeah.
That we could, to say, okay, designate certain areas for handicap parking at that spot, in that parking area.
You mean keep the parking where it is and then like have a path to the,
Have a path, but also, I don't think there was any handicap designated parking except for along the building that they're redoing, correct? So could we designate closer to the track some handicap parking?
We could take a look at that, I believe that's our property we would have.
And I know that's not your project right now,
The
but just
question would
thinking
be,
ahead.
are the slopes accessible? I don't know, the parking lot elevation to the track, I believe the track is elevated. We'd have to see if that would be under 5% on the existing paving, or if not, then we need to look at handicap ramping installed as well.
Okay, that would probably be less expensive than putting a whole new parking lot in, I would think. Okay,
All right, so that's one of our major complications.
Okay.
The handicap slope.
We have to review ADA.
right. But we can do it if we have the handicapped ramps and things in, that would be a possibility.
and have a path.
Yeah,
to
I think
softball.
what I heard the gentleman say was, if the ADA requirements allow us to do that, we can easily do that. The complication comes when and if it's not favorable for ADA compliance and you have to do something more construction or more work. So that's something that we can look at, research, that's a good question.
Yeah, but we don't have it right now, so I don't know what would change.
Right, and it's simply the slope
Right.
that's there. Yeah, we just have to.
I
review
understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just wondering what the difference was, because, again, we don't have it now, but we're talking about doing this, if we could maybe have it cost.
A lot of the stuff is grandfathered in because of the age of the school.
And because maybe it's already
ADA
existing, I guess.
ADA requirements didn't come into what, 1970, 80 what?
2011,
All right. Wayne, do you have any questions on that side? No,
That's a good
You good?
That's a good question.
Along with that, could the parking and netting be an alt add?
Yeah, absolutely, I think that was mentioned.
So that it doesn't have to be in the bid that we select. And the permit, can you go a little bit deeper to explain why the permit has to be tied to the middle school, high school project?
Because that's what DEP requires. That's the simple answer is, when you do disturbance, basically the softball field, you're looking at the reorientation, you're gonna be over an acre of disturbance. Regardless though, let me back up. If you go over an acre, you're required to do an NPDES permit, if you're just doing a new project. You have an existing project that has an existing NPDES permit, your limited disturbance boundary goes to the property line. So the area we're working in already is included in the permit limit of disturbance. It doesn't account for the disturbance we're doing though. So those require additional calculations for water quality controls. That would push us into making a modification to the existing NPDES permit. The baseball
Ventilation,
field,
the sediment ponds that need to be inputted, those things come into play.
Does RLPS or ECI have to be involved in any of this, that being the case?
I don't believe so.
They would not. We can party right off the top of it. You have an existing permit, we would just expand that.
Well, hopefully you know ways to expedite that permitting process. Because we're in the middle of a baseball season, we have to have these things done for safety reasons and others prior to that.
Understand? Understand.
So if we waited for the construction to be over, it would push it way out if we just got the permitting on our own after the building construction.
Yes, you would have to close that permit out to, and then you would get a new permit, so it really, it doesn't, it's not really an advantage.
Maybe,
I have one more question. It looks like there's fencing in the outfield, permanent fencing. I know that soccer, like youth, some of the youth sports practice on those fields. Are they gonna lose access to, or like to that area? Because of course, right now the softball field, the outfield, you can take that away and we put it back up. Is that gonna limit the accessibility of some of the other youth sports that we have to be able to use those fields?
That's a good question, and we've got Shelley here.
Right
I
now,
know Leafy uses it and so does soccer.
Yeah.
youth soccer actually uses the field while the fence is up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I guess they do,
Yeah.
They're now, okay,
So I don't think it's gonna make much of a difference.
okay,
Because they're using it right now.
okay. And maybe once things get done, they'll be different, but okay, I think that's all I have. Okay.
Question about baseball. The orientation is exactly the same. Do we look at changing, bringing it down and going towards the changing the orientation of that ball field to maybe prevent Mr. Reininger's house getting hit a little bit more and having less netting?
Looked at that, you still have property on the southwest corner, residential property, and you would be in the same situation where you have
If you
houses
take-
actually closer. If you would turn that 180 degrees.
No, I'm saying if you take it, pull it down to the bottom, in this particular slide, the bottom corner would be home plate, heading towards, let's say that home plate is still on North Street. At the other end, with the outfield going towards the football field, you've got a warehouse that's X number of feet behind, and our own school buses and property off the left-hand side, and then the one house that would be the length of a home run on the first base side.
My first concern would be orientation, solar orientation.
Okay?
That's like the worst orientation just because of the setting sun. And your infielders would be looking right in the setting sun. Line drives and setting sun are not good combination.
That's why we asked the questions.
And also, I think you could still see foul balls down the first base line, running down Newark Street and
But they
getting
wouldn't
into
hit
those.
Mr. Reiner's house.
Still potential.
But our infielders will get hit with the ball.
Now, is there possibility, would
Line drives.
possibly pulling the field forward a few more feet help out in any way, shape, or form, or is there not enough property there to do that now that the bleachers are gone and the existing pathway would obviously be taken out?
You could probably move it maybe up to 10 feet, but I don't think that would really eliminate any foul balls, that 10 feet. The actual orientation and how the field sits is about as good as it can be in that area. Plus, with shifting it, now you're doing a total renovation, basically stripping everything off and redoing everything. The intent with the baseball, I think your grades are good. There's a lot of up and downs and some renovation that's needed, but basically your bases should stay where they're at because the overall construction is sound. I think you're most economical just to work on your outsides.
Does anybody else have any other questions?
One more. I know we have to do the permit for softball because of reorienting the field and with everything that's going on up there. Is there a way that we could do baseball before the softball and get that done earlier? Or do we have to do them together?
But it's just, the equipment would be there for both of them, would be advantageous financially to do them at the same time.
Because it would be two separate move-in and outs.
The permitting is the biggest challenge right now because they're requiring us to combine both of those. So
That's
so
fine.
basically, they'll be both ready to go. If you would decide to phase the construction, I don't see there would be a major issue there because of the distance between the two. You know, it's hard to say, you know, if it would be advantageous from a financial standpoint.
That's something we could look at maybe down the road if this goes through.
If we're here.
Yeah.
Well, right.
Yeah,
Might
and you
not
have
be
to,
us.
do have to worry about the perception that you did the boys before the girls, and the girls before the boys.
But if we made the understanding that, that, look, we have, because the softball field is so close to the construction and due to the, I'm sorry, the acronym permit that we have to do,
Does that permit apply to the baseball field too, or does it just apply to the high school property?
Baseball field too.
so
They have
because
a
because it's
provision.
all lumped in, that's, yeah, okay.
Both would be required to.
Because if you push it down the road, then potentially it would be more expensive than what we have allotted for it now. So I think we should all happen at one time and just do it in
That's fine.
full. It's probably more advantageous.
Unfortunately, things don't get any cheaper.
Yeah. Let's go.
Lighting for softball.
It was not a question I had. I mean, it can be added. One other thing I did want to mention, I know I talked to Mr. Trone, he's interested in getting water to that softball field, which will greatly help the turf
Okay.
established. That would be another thing to consider. I know there's, you know, we would like to get electric into the dugouts. We are gonna need to get a service down there to do that. Electric for the scoreboard. If lighting would be a component, it can always be added.
All right, yeah, we would have to because the boys have it at this point, so therefore, if we change anything to the field, the young ladies get that opportunity too. So that would be something that has to be on there. We have, at least put that on for consideration, so. All right, any other questions? I appreciate it, thank you.
Sure, absolutely.
And
Appreciate your time.
Victor and Joe Baker will be in touch with you.
So we won't hear anything for a year from you.
If you want me to come, I can
No.
come anytime. If you want to hear from me, I'm happy to speak.
That's the schedule, is you'll come back in a year.
Yes, yes.
Hopefully we can get the permit.
Quicker than that, ideally. Thank you.
Thank you. Carolyn's up, and hers are for priorities for programs, funding, and student success. Jeez.
Hello, everyone. So I have a little background information first. I'm gonna tell you the story of where we are and how we got to where we are today in our People Service Department. So you should have the handout in front of you. It's not, my words are gonna just kind of overview what you have in front of you. So I've been tasked with making a clear interpretation of our district-wide integrated school mental health, behavioral, and academic initiative. There is a clear data for the direction we pursued as a district regarding the solutions we have sought since 2016-17. It seems so long ago that we as a district had a staff of one psychologist. That psychologist left us in 2016. At that time, we needed to replace him. Unfortunately, we were unable to hire a district employee due to lack of availability. With that being said, that position was filled with an outside contractor. The problems with mental health, behaviors, and academics kept expanding. In 2016-17, we had a significant need for behavioral support. With PDE mandating a 339 counselor plan for college and career readiness and academic planning, the counselors came to Mr. Bigger and myself to express concerns in being able to navigate the PDE mandate and the increasing behavioral needs of our students. Our solution? The board acknowledged the need for a behavior specialist and a mental health counselor, beginning the fall of our 2018 school year, as the title of my presentation. Our mental health counselor would come on board as a district employee, and the behavior specialist would be contracted due to lack of availability. So let me make sure that I'm clear. That would include a contracted psychologist a contracted behavior specialist, and a district employee of a mental health counselor. So, from 2018-19 through 2021, results from adding our additional staff includes being able to support the 4 intensive learning support classrooms, district-wide, 2 emotional support classrooms, supporting all teachers with behavioral and academic interventions through the child study team, through threat assessments, evaluations, and social and behavioral skills group, and the mental health counselor providing individual and group therapy to students K-12. You can already see how this vital team is evolving since 2016 to support district-wide, integrated, behavioral, mental health, and academic needs for our students. Thus, directly allowing the counselors to focus on school counseling, teachers to focus on academics, and the specialized supports coming from the additional staff. As you can imagine, we felt very good about maneuvering through these increasingly difficult times those years. But 2020, in comes COVID. In 2021, we had identified yet another district-wide problem. The staff survey from results from a 2021 magnified the 2016-17 concerns with an unfortunate increase in mental health and negative behaviors impacting learning. We began to work through the quandary with board support and ESSER funding. We needed additional staff to support the predicament we were in. Solving our mental health and behavioral dilemma with our current 2016-17 staff would not be possible. So with our ESSER funding, which had specific criteria for mental health, we were able to build a team of 2 psychologists, 2 behavior specialists, 1 mental health counselor, they were all contracted, and 1 mental health counselor that was an LASD employee. Our results are staggering, being able to divide and conquer with elementary and secondary, providing more intensive supports, supporting those intensive learning support classrooms, supporting those emotional support classrooms. We were able to add an additional high school emotional support classroom, supporting all teachers with behavioral and academic interventions, and the mental health counselors providing individual and group therapy to all our students. The additional staff allowed us to be able to service the district's increase in the number of students needing support, the ways our teachers and counselors needed our support, and thus resulting in a positive result in our mental health, behavioral, and academic district-wide initiative. So all of that brings us to currently 24-25, as we have navigated this since 2016. We have made many fiscally responsible changes to what we saw as our initial problem in 2016, meaning we saw as a board, administrative team, and district, this problem was not going away. Rather, it was only increasing. We needed to be able to sustain this district's need financially as we tactically navigated the future. So we currently have 4 in-house employees saving the district money, as it is always more fiscally responsible to have our staff rather than contracting services. So in 23-24, the behavior specialist and the mental health counselor became our employee. In 24-25, the 2 school psychologists became our employee, and we currently have 1 contracted employee, the behavior specialist, who is funded through PCCD funding. The staff supports our entire K-12 students, all our teachers, and has allowed us to continue to service the increasing needs of our district. So what can we celebrate? We can celebrate that since 2016, we as a district, which includes all of you and our previous boards, have navigated through trying times by prioritizing mental health, behavioral matters, and academic concerns which directly support our teachers and staff. We can celebrate 4 in-house employees and the cost savings that provides, as well as the PCCD money funding our contracted staff. We can celebrate outside placements down from 44 in 2021 to 14 in 2024, a huge cost savings for us. We can celebrate that we have been able to maintain special education costs from 2018-19 to present at or below 2.2 million, which is only an 8% increase over 7 years, as compared to my colleagues in Adams County seeing anywhere between 20 and 30% increase. 2 huge wins and more cost savings of our district. We also can celebrate high school bullying referrals, 144 in 2017 to 67 in 2024. We can celebrate secondary suspensions down 45%. And students referred for behavioral and or academic supports, 210 students on average every year are being supported with academic or behavioral supports K through 12. I've clearly communicated the 2016 to today's story of our district problems and solutions regarding our district-wide mental health, behavioral, and academic initiative. Now you can see the necessary steps we have put in place to get necessary results for our district. We remain committed to the district obstacle, looking at ways to be more fiscally responsible, more ways to integrate and utilize our staff, and more ways to proactively support K-12 students, teachers, and staff. Any questions?
Do they have any questions? Elaine, we'll start with you.
Chairman, thank you. Thank you. A lot in the heart of this, because it helps me better understand the whole district. Thank you for doing this. I appreciate it. No questions?
Is that it?
No. No, go ahead. Questions? No. You're good. No, she gave me everything I need now. Thank you so much.
Good.
No questions?
Nick? Brian?
No, thank you.
Jamie?
Well, I'm
Jeannie?
I asked too many questions. We'll have one.
You're last. That's why I kept you for last this time. You can ask all you want. Jeannie, did you have any?
I just want to know, what is actually mandated by the Pennsylvania Department of Education, if anything? Like, I think the classrooms are great. Is that something that we came up with? Is that something that's normal practice, or is that
You
something?
mean these classrooms that I have?
Yeah.
So in order to support those students with their needs, we
Right.
need to have special
Yeah.
classes for them.
We came up with that, or is that like
Well-
normal practice?
It's becoming more and more normal practice, because
Yeah.
prior, the LIU used to have all these classes.
Right.
So they stopped, so we start doing them, and our districts start taking them back, because also it's a cost savings for us.
Right.
So those classes have always been around.
Right,
They're
okay,
nothing
yeah.
new.
Just
Right.
more buses were heading this
Yeah.
way and that way.
Well, it's,
Yeah.
okay.
Did you have any more?
And then, well, go ahead.
No, Joe, she's gonna be there for a half hour, so that's
No,
fine.
she only has one question, she said.
All right.
Do you have a question, Brian?
No, no. I just wanted you to make the point, or at least reinforce the point, that we're probably the first school in Adams County, and probably one of the first in York County as well, to really move most of this stuff in-house, were we not? Back in, what, was it
Well-
18, 19, when we started hiring all these, additional.
The other, in Adams County, they didn't have mental health workers.
Right, so we were the first to really,
To do that,
The
yes.
mental
that
health
part.
ones,
But the
okay.
other schools had their own, like, they might have had an autism class
Right.
or a life skills class, but not as much as we do today.
right, I was just trying to remember, it's been a couple years.
Because all our students would go to different places for
Right.
an emotional support classroom or an intensive learning support
Right.
classroom. They wouldn't be here at the district.
So I just wanted
Services were available,
to
it's
support
just
this
it
you in
was
there.
out
Yeah,
there.
we are.
The LIU used to run a lot of them.
Correct, there was services out there, and now you just brought it more in.
It's all more in-house.
Yeah, in order to save money and be financially responsible.
So remember those words and live it.
Okay.
Show's all yours.
So this is, I'm just clarifying, so the positions that you have outlined here that we have, not the classrooms, but the other 5 positions that we have, that does not include our 2 counselors at ACES, Mr. McMaster and Mrs. Lee.
No, that doesn't include.
And that doesn't include
not
Mrs.
school
Allison?
counselors. That does
Just
not
school
include
counselors, right,
no.
okay. So I'm just thinking out loud, for our district, we have 5 in-house, then we have Mr. McMaster, Mrs. Lee, Mrs. Allison, and we have 2 others at the high school that I'm aware of, correct? That's 10, 3. So that would be 11 total counselors that we have in our school district then for our students, correct?
If you're counting all of those, yes. yes, but they have different roles.
Yeah, but I was gonna say,
They're different
guidance
roles.
counselors aren't the same
The
as
guidance
behavioral
counselors,
counselors.
like
Well,
I
I know,
said-
but they kind of start out probably with a guidance counselor, right? Then they get referred to
Not
behavioral
necessarily, no.
counselors.
No.
Probably classroom teacher.
Classroom
Classroom
teacher,
teacher.
a parent.
Yeah, so one of the
Here,
things
point of order
that
over
Dr. Fiaschi talked about was the
I'm
child
trying to
study team.
clarify, just so I can understand everything